Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we can have a seat and settle down and start the last session of track 4 this morning. For those of you that don't know, obviously, myself, Cisco van Skyk, and Chavu, where's Chavu? There she is, facilitating the session today. And on the last session, we have somebody that's been around and have spoken to most of us already, hopefully with the same vigor as before. Alan with 1 L, he tells me. People get it wrong, and it's not 2 L's, it's 1 L. Okay, so Alan Knott-Craig, running with Project Isizwe, is that the right Isizwe, ne? Isizwe. The CEO of Mixit, as you know, and I'm not going to spend time. I asked him now to give me his full bio, or where he was born, was he breastfed or not, but he says that's not necessary. So Alan, without further ado, over to you.
Thank you very much. No, I'm actually... Okay, so thank you very much for the invitation to be here. It's not often I get to come to Durban, and I'm going to go for a nice swim after this, so at the very least I'm going to have a nice swim in the sea. Today, I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about what we've been doing with the city of Tshwane, providing free Wi-Fi in the townships. And but before I get to that, maybe a little bit of a structure. I'll give you some of my background. I'll explain why I'm foolishly... Sorry, what was that? Do you want to maybe just meet afterwards? Or why I'm foolishly doing a non-profit venture. Then also, how we went about coming up with a model for government-subsidized internet. Lastly, how we did the Tshwane stuff and where we're going to from here. So my background is I'm a chartered accountant. I grew up in Pretoria. Is anybody here from Pretoria? I suppose everyone here is from Pretoria. Well, my normal Pretoria jokes probably won't go down very well. But I went to the Glen High School. Any of you went there? It's a feeder school for Polesmore. Yes, well done. So we have our reunion at Groot Maximum Security. I qualified as a CA in 2002, and I managed to escape the profession. And I started a business doing cell phone tracking. So you could track your kids, or you track your wife, or you could track your husband. It was mostly husbands tracking wives, and we had a lot of that, and made a bit of money. And from there I went into iBurst. I don't know if any of you have ever used iBurst. I was in the wireless broadband industry, and it was obviously much better when I was there, but that business, taught me a lot of things about business and also about telecoms networks. And fundamentally, it taught me that it's virtually impossible to make money out of a data network from data revenues alone if you're going to build that network the way a traditional telco builds a network, which is basically just spend as much money as you can possibly think and picture lots of money coming in the door from selling voice. From there, I went to Stellenbosch. I was fortunate enough to have married young, firstly. Secondly, married a girl who had a bit of money so that I could chase my dreams. And thirdly, she was from Stellenbosch. So after we had our first child, I moved down to Stellenbosch. And I started a new business doing apps for Africa. And I thought to myself, I always wanted to get into this app space. I always wanted to be a rich guy like those guys from Google. And but I really didn't want to live in America. And I also don't at all want to take on the Americans head on. They are very intimidating. So I thought, what can I do to get into this space but stay in South Africa? And I don't know if there's anybody from America here, but once you've been to America once or twice, you'll quickly realize that whilst it's got a lot of the smartest and most intelligent, hardworking people you'll ever come across in your life, it's also very much an echo chamber, especially a place like Silicon Valley. So, whenever I went there, I'd ask them, what are you doing about people without smartphones? And they'd look at me like I'm an idiot. And so everyone's got a smartphone. If they don't have one today, it'll be tomorrow. And they say, what are you doing about people who have to actually pay for bandwidth? So they just look at you like, are you sick? What's wrong with you? Of course, everything's free. Data's free. Everything's free. It's uncapped. You don't pay for bandwidth. And then I'd ask, what do you do about people who don't have credit cards? And they'd go, well, everyone's going to have a credit card. And after a few visits there, I finally realized they're never actually going to get it. That most of the world is not like San Francisco. And so if you can figure out ways to create solutions using mobile phones, for problems that are not in San Francisco, you've got a chance of taking on the big guys because they're not looking at your problem. And that is the birth of World of Avatar, and we did smart apps for dumb phones. And we would try to figure out a way to make money or help you make money and build community using your mobile phone. That ended up quite big. We had about 17 companies. We ended up buying Mixit. I don't know if any of you have ever used Mixit. Any pedophiles in the room? No? No. Mixit's basically Tinder for the Cape Flats, a dating app that came out of the south of the Cape and became far and away the biggest consumer web application to come out of any continent in the world other than China and North America. And it's something we kind of think, oh, well, that doesn't sound, I mean, you just think Mixit, you know. But a massive, massive application. It's a massive tech success story globally. And I managed to buy it. And then after a little bit of running it, about a year, in fact, my partners and I reached a mutual agreement. They told me to fuck off, and I said, okay. So the whole dilemma that I got into in that situation was, from the beginning, Avatar was not predicated on making money enough. It was more predicated on telling a story and getting users and getting growth and basically following the Dummy's Guide to Becoming a Billionaire written by Silicon Valley. But outside of Silicon Valley, the laws of economics are normal. Inside of Silicon Valley, the laws of economics are just irrelevant, you know. And, you need to make money and you need to make a profit. And the long and the short of it is what, I discovered to my demise was you have to figure out a way to make money, and at the very least, you've got to figure out a way not to lose money before you do anything. The other thing I'd realized was that the problem is not the apps or the content. The problem is access. So, there's so much world-class content on the internet, and yet, the guys living down the road in Mitchell's Plain can't get that content. And why not? It's not because they don't have the device, it's because they can't afford the cost of 3G. And there's definitely no Telkom there. I mean, I don't know if Telkom are here, but there's no Telkom anyway. I mean, I think there's 1 million landlines in South Africa today. There were 5 million 20 years ago, and there's 55 million people. So, landlines aren't going to save the day. It's going to be wireless, and really it's the mobile operators that have stepped into that vacuum, and they provide an amazing service, which works really well, as long as you've got money. So then I started thinking about, how could we get involved with a little bit on the access side of things. So back to telecoms, dumb pipes 101. And, I've got 3 daughters. I love my country. I want to live here forever. I want them to live here forever. But I think it'd take a very brave man to say that everything's on track and everything's going exactly according to plan. And I thought, I don't want to tell my kids I was just on the side trying to chase bucks whilst things were not necessarily going that well. So ideally what I'd like to be able to do is make some money whilst helping the country. And there's just simply no better way, in my opinion, to help people than to provide internet access. And if you can provide it in rural and poor communities and you can do it for free, well, then I think you've hammered a big nail. I don't know what that metaphor was for, but you've definitely solved a big problem, because the internet is going to help you with jobs, it's going to help you sending CVs, it's going to help you find online healthcare information, it's going to let you get your textbook online rather than wait for somebody to deliver it to your school. It changes the game, it empowers people, and it doesn't replace government, but it makes it much more possible for those youngsters in our country that want to get ahead by themselves without waiting for somebody to take their hand and pull them. So, I had to figure out a way to make it affordable to roll out a telco network. And the reason it had to be affordable, because this is no getting around the fact that the government has to pay for this, right? And in every country in the world, it's been the same. The reason the government in our country doesn't take responsibility for telecoms is because we privatized our telco, which is Telkom, and then we didn't regulate them. So, I know a lot of people at Telkom, I like them, but they've got a profit motive. And nowhere in the profit motive does it say, look after the 40 million people in South Africa that can't get on the internet because it's too expensive. Also, the way the telecoms of the world deploy networks, it's quite expensive. So a country like South Africa is not blessed with the financial resources to do what Australia is doing, which is trying to put fiber into everybody's house, which is epically failing, by the way. But they can't even consider that. So, think of the country as a company, right? You're the CEO of the country. Who do you phone? You phone your IT director, the Minister of Telecoms. How's it, Chief? How's it going, brother? He says, no, lack up. Everything good? Yeah, good. Listen, I want to do, everybody must have internet. That's what we want. That's what's going to win the race. We're going to save the country. Telkom guy says, lekker, I'll come back to you. A couple of days come back and said, listen, well, I've got the budget. It's going to cost about 20 trillion rand for the first 12 months and about 1 trillion rand thereafter for the rest of your life. Are you in? Chief, it's just too much. I'm going to phone you back. And that's what's been happening in our country and many countries in the world for 20 years, because the people answering the question are not necessarily bad people, and they're not trying to rip you off, but A, they've got a profit motive, and B, they're thinking about deploying data networks in a way that has been outdated in the last 5 to 7 years, and mostly outdated because of Wi-Fi technology. So if you take the world, you can either connect to the internet using a fixed line, or you can connect to the internet using the air, wireless. Fixed line, forget about it. Whole of Africa, forget about it. Most of India, most of Southeast Asia, most of South America, it's just not relevant. You can't put fixed lines in the ground everywhere. So what it's going to be is going to be wireless. Now the problem with wireless is you have to make sure everyone's got a device already, because if you don't, then you're going to have to give them devices, and devices cost a lot of money and they create lots of problems, especially if it's not an Apple device, because it's going to break all the time. And who's going to fix that thing? Who's going to fix the non-Apple device? And also, what happens when the kid's walking home from school with his or her tablet and they get mugged? And you can't put something into the market that has value. It has to be a commodity. And there's only one device in the world that's ubiquitous, and that's the mobile phone. Not even credit cards are ubiquitous. And today, thanks to smartphones in the last 5 years being pushed out thanks to Android and BlackBerry and, of course, Apple, you have got enough mobile phones in the market that have got both Wi-Fi and 3G. So the historic way of doing internet connectivity wirelessly at a country level, at a massive public space scale, has been 3G. And 3G has literally just been too expensive, and Wi-Fi has opened a window of opportunity to make a really cheap network. And you need 4 things in a network to keep it cheap. You need to bring down the cost of capital, so you need to roll out base stations that don't cost 250,000 rand a base station, which is what Telkom does, because that was the religion, right? That's how we always did it. That's how we're still going to do it. And a Wi-Fi base station costs 2,000 rand, an order of magnitude cheaper capex. And you know what? If lightning hits the base station, you buy another base station. You don't have to insure the thing. You don't have to get a 10-year warranty. No, it's a 2,000 rand base station. Just throw it away and you start again. The other thing is sites. Now, every telco has a massive challenge finding sites. Every time it has to put up a base station, it has to find a piece of property, it has to rent that property, get permissions from the environmental agencies, from the local government, etc. That's very expensive. When you work with the government's got all the property. This is something I've learned in the last year and a half. Especially local government owns a hell of a lot of things. Lampposts, water towers, libraries, ward offices, everything. You name it, they got it. So the property is there. And importantly, every one of those properties has got electricity, because you need to put electricity into these things, and you can't put a generator down for every single base station. The third thing is labor. Now, labor is an issue because, for most of these high-grade telco networks, if you don't come with a Cisco, no offense to your brand, if you don't come with a Cisco-graded engineer, Amaleka Oak, for 2,000 rand an hour, you don't get in the door. But with Wi-Fi technology, it doesn't require a PhD in software engineering anymore, electrical engineering or electronic engineering. You just have to be able to climb a mast, bolt an antenna onto that mast and plug the electricity in and climb off the mast. And there are quite a few people in South Africa that do that. And you pay them 100 rand an hour. So you bring down that cost from 2,000 rand an hour to 100 rand an hour. And also thanks to the failed state that Telkom is, a lot of wireless internet service providers have popped up all over the country to fill the vacuum that's been created for rich people to get on the internet. Never mind poor people. Rich people just want to get on the bloody internet. They don't care how much they're going to spend. They just want to get on the internet. And wireless internet service providers have popped up, and they have the skills to roll out these Wi-Fi networks really cheaply. And lastly, you need bandwidth. So, if you get on the internet, your phone goes to a base station. The base station connects to some brain in Joburg or Cape Town, and then from there it goes under the sea, or under the land to either Milnerton or to Richards Bay, and then it goes under the sea to the World Wide Web. And that is transmission. That's called bandwidth. For lack of a better word, we'll call that bandwidth. And that's always been expensive. But in the last 5 years, again, we've had all these undersea cables landing on our shores, and the cost of international bandwidth has gone from 38,000 rand to 500 rand. Underground bandwidth, which was the last big bottleneck, which Telkom had a monopoly on, has gone from 38,000 rand to about 5,000 rand. And with that massive kind of infrastructure surge, you've now got a hell of a lot of capacity just sitting in the ground that's not being used. So what we did is we went to Neotel, and we said, Neotel, how much capacity do you have? And they said, well, you got this much capacity. I said, well, how about we take some of the capacity that you've already spent money on, it's just sitting in the ground, no one's using it. What about we use that capacity to provide free Wi-Fi in townships and rural communities? How does that sound? The CEO says, sign me up, I'm in. I said, look, I'm not sure how we're going to make money. I'm pretty sure down the line, the government will be happy to pay money for this type of service, but right now, you just got to do it on trust, right? Just because you want to make the country a better place. He says, I'm in. Now, this guy's from New Zealand, right? He's not from South Africa, and Neotel's not owned by South Africans mostly. I go into Telkom, I mean, they didn't even reply to my follow-up emails. But Neotel came to the party, and suddenly we had bandwidth on board. So with those 4 ingredients, we could bring the cost of providing connectivity from about 80 cents, 50 to 80 cents, which is what you pay for your 3G right now, to 15 cents a gig. So you're going to go from 50 cents a meg to 15 cents a gig. It's 3,000 times cheaper. Anyway, so we had this model, and I thought, and anybody who's worked with Excel knows that Excel is a beautiful tool, and it will give you whatever you want. And it gave me 15 cents, and I'm like, okay, I'm in. But now I've just got to find someone to go for it. I need a municipality. So I immediately went to the municipality of Stellenbosch. Obviously, it's my hometown. Let me just go ask them. They seemed keen originally. And, I've just come to realize that the municipality of Stellenbosch has got great political leadership, but it's very difficult to get things done at an administrative level. Then I went to the city of Cape Town. Anybody here from the city of Cape Town? Hey guys, how's it? Don't take this the wrong way. But if you don't know what a good job the city of Cape Town is doing, you can just go and ask them, because they're going to tell you. I walked out of the meeting. You got that? Yeah. No, I'm talking about the IT guys. No, I'm not sure you're not an IT. I'm not, you are an IT. So, they got everything under control, and by about 2057, I think they're going to have finished their broadband backbone. So then I'm like, well, where am I going to go? And, when I was a kid and before I got married, I'd go into a bar, if I wanted to find, friendship for the night, I would, I could either go find the best-looking girl in the bar, and generally that resulted in me going home by myself, or I could employ the go ugly early strategy. Now, I thought to myself, perhaps I need to employ the go ugly early strategy when it comes to finding a municipality in South Africa that is willing to go with internet access as a basic service like water, electricity. It's not sexy, it's not PR, you're just helping the communities that need it the most. And I looked around the room and I thought, Gauteng looks pretty ugly. And yeah, well, and then for my sins, I'm involved a little bit with the Daily Maverick, and one of the journalists there pointed me in the direction of one of the speaker, or I think it's speaker for the Gauteng, and then he introduced me to the mayor of Tshwane. And Kgosianto Ramokgopa turned out to be my man. Like, look, we don't look the same, we don't sound the same, but we went to the same kind of school, right? When you were a Soti in Pretoria, you didn't play rugby, you played soccer. It was just insane to go play rugby against the Afrikaans people. So we would play soccer against anybody who wanted to play soccer. So Glenn and I used to play soccer against Atteridgeville, and that's where he went. So we kind of had the same sense of humor, and he could see it. And here was a guy who can see it, and technically understood enough that it wasn't just like in one ear out the other. And lastly, was willing to take the political risk to give it a go. Look, I did make it easy for him. I said, we'll fund the whole project, the first site, 25,000 people, it'll cost R1 million for 3 years, fully funded. And if it doesn't work, don't pay us. He said, okay, sounds good. Will you come present to the council? So I came and presented at the council. The next day, I actually didn't even get changed. I think I had another pair of underpants. But the T-shirt and jeans were the same. And I had to present to 220 people I'd never seen in my life in Centurion. And I think they actually, kind of approved it just because they thought there's no ways this guy, was making this up, because he looked very confident in that yesterday's T-shirt. So we managed to get it done, and a long story short, right now we launched it on time, we got it on budget, we were given another contract, and right now, City of Tshwane has got capacity for 1.2 million people on free Wi-Fi networks and public spaces in Atteridgeville, Mamelodi, Shoshangove. And we're rolling out capacity for another 800,000 people, 1.8 million people. We'll have capacity for 3 million people by April next year. That's public access, open air Wi-Fi. You walk outside the library, you walk outside the school, you can get on the internet, and it's not slow. It's not cheap internet. It's 7 megs per second internet. It works really well, and we've had a lot of good stories come out of it. In fact, this week we launched something called Wi-Fi TV. So the first thing you do, once you've given people the internet, you've got to tell them what to do with the internet, especially if they're over the age of 30. Under the age of 30, people figure it out. Over the age of 30, they're like, hey, I'm not sure, brother. So we look at the thing, we go, look, I mean, it doesn't matter what race you are, what language, what religion. People over the age of 30 are afraid of technology. That's just what it is, if they haven't been exposed to it until the age of 30. And we discovered that most of the elderly living in Shoshongove were a lot like people living in America in the 90s. You couldn't give them a clean white page that said Google and say, go and find the internet. You had to give them a curated internet. You had to go back to the Yahoo days where it said, this is sports, this is education, this is jobs. So we put together a page called Tibetsa, which means click in Sotho. And on Tibetsa, you can find Gumtree for your jobs. You can set up your email. You can go find the Khan Academy lectures for your curriculum. You can go download your textbooks. You can do a whole lot of things. And now you can watch Wi-Fi TV. And what we did is we recruited a lot of unemployed youngsters in the townships. We trained them up with cameras and journalistic skills and all that stuff. And now what they do is they run around and do local stories. And then they upload those stories onto the network, and we zero rate it on the network. So although you've got a 250 meg cap per day for the network, it's uncapped to watch Wi-Fi TV. If you want to find out what's going on in your local community, you can do it. And that's just like one little application that is possible because people can get on the internet. The internet's, it's the access that's the key. If we don't get people on the internet, it doesn't matter what amazing websites and content we have out there, they will never be able to get that thing. I think, you know, I mean, I could go on forever about the stories we've had about people's lives that were changed, etc. I'm not sure where the City of Tshwane thing is going. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure working with these guys. It's completely changed my opinion about government, because I was a private sector guy. You know, I thought everybody in government was corrupt. You know, that's what I read in the papers. And or they were incompetent. What my experience has been that these people, not only are they not asking me for anything, and incredibly competent, considering how unbelievably complex the job is to run a municipality, but they're actually public-spirited. I've yet to meet, I can count maybe 10 people in my life in business that care about people. They just care about money. And in government, you've got people who can get things done, who are not corrupt, and care about our country and the people that live in our country. And I must say, it's given me a lot of hope, because this is an ANC government. Tshwane is ANC. And I thought, well, you know, maybe it's not what I'm reading in the papers, and maybe all that's needed is the private sector just needs to work a little bit closer with the public sector, and we can solve these problems that the country has. Anyway, so let me just conclude, and then you can ask some questions if you're interested. And by the way, if anybody here is interested in rolling out free Wi-Fi, I'm your man, okay? You come and talk to me. We can show you exactly how we've done it at Tshwane. We're starting to do some stuff in Limpopo now, in Toyoyandu. We're looking at KZN. We've got a big proposal in front of the KZN provincial government for rural areas. We've done some stuff in Western Cape. We've done 2 towns in the Western Cape. There's some massive opportunity in Northern Cape. I mean, I think if you really need to give internet, it has to be rural. I mean, the metro has already got access to information, and they can get in a taxi and they can go to the university and apply to a job. When you're living in the middle of, just outside of King Williamstown, it's a lot harder. So I'm open to any suggestions of help and advice, and especially contracts. And you know, we are a non-profit. And I must say, the nice thing about being non-profit is we're also a non-loss. So all we do is we make sure we cover the costs and off we go. And I can promise you a lot of data providers in South Africa are not doing as well as that. To conclude, I'll give you a little analogy, right? People in South Africa and in Africa are living in a desert, okay? All over the desert, you see these vending machines. And inside these vending machines are bottles of Perrier and there's bottles of Valpre. And if you got money, you go get that water and off you go. If you don't have money, you just stand there staring at the guy drinking the water. And underneath the ground, there are rivers and rivers of water, right? Now, that water is the internet. And Africa is a desert when it comes to the internet. And all that we do is we put a borehole into that water. We bring water to the surface, tap water. Doesn't taste that good maybe. Maybe there's a queue, but it's better than nothing. And we give everybody access to water, not just those who can afford to buy the water out of the vending machine. And on that note, I just want to say it's an absolute privilege to be here. Actually feel quite privileged to be doing what I do. And it feels like I'm on a star. And it doesn't matter, sorry, I'm on a rocket. And it doesn't matter, yeah, am I on a rocket? Yes, you knew it, yeah. And I'm going to the moon. And it doesn't matter whether we blow up along the way or we make it, we'll be amongst the stars. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, public-spirited indeed. And I heard the comment here about, there was a young gentleman on the plenary on Monday night that spoke about, and he made rocket fuel in his mom's kitchen. And look where he ended up, okay? And his wish was to go to Jupiter. So your analogy is quite apt, and I think, and that's a very high note for Alan. Thank you very much. I think without fancy spreadsheets or graphics on the board, I think you inspired us here today, and I certainly think that the group here today will pick up on what you set out to do. And I think there's lots of opportunity, and we so direly need it. All right, we still have some time for a couple of questions before lunch is served, and I think utilize the time. Have we got anything? Okay, here comes some of the stuff that you can pick up here. I'm going to give the mic back to you.
So is the free Wi-Fi really free? Really with one L? So well, I mean, it's free to you if you're using it. So how it works is you walk into one of the free, a park with free Wi-Fi. It says Tshwane free Wi-Fi. You click Tshwane free Wi-Fi on your Wi-Fi spots. Click, you're on. You open your browser, and it immediately takes you to Tebetsa. No username, no password, no advertising, no mess, no fuss. You go to that, and from there you can do anything you want on the internet. You can type your Google, you can do whatever you like, and you get 250 megs a day. So it's a 7.5 gig cap a month. But everything on Tebetsa is uncapped. So anything educational, all the job stuff, the Wi-Fi, TV stuff is uncapped. So you can have an infinity of consumption of that. What we do cap, though, is if you want to go to YouTube and watch music videos all day, which is what a lot of people want to do, and porn. So porn, I'm afraid, is we just have these global blacklists that you just subscribe to, and then they stop there going. And we do get at least 10 emails a day from someone who's attached a certified copy of their ID, proving that they're over 18, begging us to unblock, goatporn.com. But I mean, the government's paying, so it's not free. Someone's paying, the government's paying. Just like the government pays for a quota of water and electricity for everybody in the country. Tapeism. How do you find your... Can you guys see these questions? Yeah, on the screen. Okay. Is that like a tapeworm kind of issue? A lot of people ask, when we did this, everyone, including my dad, said, you're insane. This is never going to work. Firstly, you're never going to get to talk to the right guy in government. Secondly, you're never going to get a contract. Thirdly, you'll never get it done because you need to work with the government, and everyone knows you can't work with the government. And lastly, they're never going to pay you, right? And then we met the right guy. We did a contract. We deployed on time, ahead of budget, and we got paid. I mean, it is unbelievable. And we... Yeah, you like that, huh? And it wasn't luck. We did it twice, the first phase and the second phase, and now we're doing it again for the third phase. And every time, everybody keeps telling me this is not possible. So I'm sure there've been some bad experiences in the country with other people. And my experiences have been good. And my experiences are that you have to stick to the process, okay? And I've got 5 CAs that work with me. I'm a CA. I'm a process guy. That's what I was taught. I was just taught, tick the boxes. Leave no document unchecked, And all I do, basically, we just got these goals. They're all goals. They're all half-day goals. Just sit there, just making sure we've submitted the forms, we've done this. We just don't make it impossible for the guy to pay you. Because if he pays you without that form, he goes to jail. That's the difference between business and government. Business, you steal, you make a mistake, you do whatever, nothing happens. And you get paid a bonus. In government, there's no bonus. You make one mistake, you go to jail. So, from our secret is we just stick to the process, and we make sure we understand that process. We're fortunate in the city of Tshwane, they're very competent administration, and they make it easy for us to follow the process. keep clapping, guys. That's good. What's your opinion? Okay. Well, my opinion is just ignore these people who talk about security. That's my opinion. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a stream or one of these rooms that you can put them all in there and then drop a bomb and just end them. People that are paranoid about security are just paranoid people. You know? Don't be paranoid about security. This is the internet, everyone. Hello. Has anybody ever heard of Facebook? Imagine you went to school or varsity when there was Facebook. Do you think you'd have your job today? No, because there'd be photos of you vomiting on the ground next to your bloody taxi or something like that. Because everybody's done silly things in their life, and thank goodness there were mobile phones with cameras and social media, you know? But the thing is, it's still going to happen. It's still going to happen, and you're still going to get a job, even though there's going to be an online trail of you doing really stupid things. It's because it's going to become normal, you know? It's impossible to stop people. The internet is there. The secrets are out. There's no more secrets, X. If you're doing something dodgy, it's going to be outed. Your bank account, wireless security for bank accounts. Is that your bank's problem or the internet company's problem? If your bank account gets hacked, is it because you've got a retarded bank? I mean, that's like, retarded bank is a redundant statement. You just say bank, because you must assume they're retarded, right? And they're sitting there making it so bloody easy for the criminals to get in. And if they don't make it easy, I mean, I don't even want to talk about it. Those banks, they make it now so hard that I can't get in. So I'm the customer, and I can't get into my own bank account because they're trying to protect me from having my money stolen. So I don't think about security. I'll cross all those bridges when you get there. There are problems. There are lots of problems with the internet for children. There's lots of security issues about all of these things. These are problems for the whole world. It's not a reason to stop people getting on the internet. It's a reason to get people on the internet quickly so you can find out what the risks are and we start educating people about those risks. How long did it take to roll out? Well, our first phase, which we did 25,000, we did 5 sites. We did that in about 12 weeks. And our second phase, we did 100 sites, and we did that in about, we did 200 sites, and we did that in about 6 months. It's fine? No problem. We did that in about 6 months, and we're on track to do 400 sites now in about 7 months. You know, it's a network, and you get, and I mean, the first phase was hard. We had to learn how to work with the electricity guys and the IT guys, and it was just getting faster and faster and faster. So, I mean, for me, I'll tell you what, man. The only way in 5 years from now you don't have public Wi-Fi everywhere in South Africa, free, is because the government didn't get behind it. There's no reason. It's not a budget issue, and it's not a speed issue. It's a political will issue. How are you rolling this great project out in the rural provinces? Well, I mean, we've got a deployment going up in Limpopo now around Toyandu, and we've got a deployment in Robertson, which is quite rural in Western Cape. And like we've got this in Eastern Cape. I mean, in KZN we've got something. I think the thing is to just keep in mind that the more rural you get, the more expensive it gets. Okay, so Tshwane has got fiber, it's got electricity, it's close to the data centers, so it's a lot cheaper. We can get to 15 cents, 1 rand, gig, no problem. As you get more rural, you have to start relying on more long links and satellites, etc. It gets more expensive. But it's still 1,000 times cheaper than any alternative. So the cost of deployment is still an order of magnitude cheaper, but it does get more expensive. But there are other challenges. There are challenges like security, there's challenges of maintenance, etc. that you've got to overcome, which is why we're quickly doing rural implementation so that we can quickly learn how we overcome those challenges. Because in the end, I don't want to do this. I mean, I want to buy a jet. Right? Who doesn't want to buy a jet? I want to buy a jet. I can't buy a jet if I'm running a non-profit. At the moment, I'm privileged, I'm loving life, I'm living the dream, but I'm not buying any jets anytime soon. So I need to get off this bloody ship, off the non-jet ship, get onto the jet ship. And the only way I'm going to do that is I've got to create a model that I can just put on the internet and say, this is how you do it. Telkom, you have no excuse. You must do it like that. Those guys did it like that. If you don't do it like that, we're not going to give you the contract. You know, same thing for every country on the continent, never mind just South Africa, just copy the model and off they go. Are you looking at WiMAX technology? I once rolled out a WiMAX network. WiMAX is a load of shit. And the reason it's a load of shit is that there are no devices in the market. It's no good rolling out a network that nobody can use because they don't have devices. And if you're going to roll out devices, I promise you, you're asking for theft, you're asking for corruption, and you're asking for the biggest IT support job of your life. Is that it? Well, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. That gets us to the end of the last track. I hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed it. I think you can give him another round of applause. He likes it. Okay. Okay. I also see our Chief Technology Officer here, Pandalani. So you said you've not spoken to anybody in CETA. Today's your chance. All right. I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, Pandalani. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Hey, more questions? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, yeah, I wonder if it's necessary to vote. But let's do it. Yeah. All right. So grab your BlackBerry lookalikes. You done? Already on the go? Introspect yourself, yeah.
Maybe I can get it now. Can I get it now? I've got memory stick.
I doubt it. Not your time. I doubt it.
You never know. I'll go ask him now. He's techies can do that. I can't tell you the exact locations. We're actually doing a site visit on Friday next week. Well, it started